Hello and welcome to the Thunder from Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Graham Solomon, and today we've got a special guest in, Al Williamson, who is an expert in extended stays, Airbnb Extended Stays. So we've got him live in the studio right now. So without any further ado, I'll get Al to introduce himself and give us a bit of a background about himself and about how he got into this and how he started in the REI journey. So thanks for coming on, Al. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was nobody, Graham. I was nobody until you found me.
Okay, so we've made you go international. So now you're
yes,
you've really blown up. So
I have. Yep.
So yeah, a bit of background, Al.
Okay.
You know, how you actually got into this? What you were doing beforehand?
I actually got into this because my wife, she asked me why we couldn't go on vacation. We had all these rental properties. Why can't we go on vacation? And I told her it's because we had all these rental properties and they were taking up all our money. I had to use my civil engineering job to kind of offset the cost of the rentals because maintenance costs a lot of money. And even though it's cash flowing, you know, the paint your place or to repair a roof, that takes up all your profits and some. So because of that, I was so disgusted with myself. I had started exploring different ways of making my existing rentals work. That's what happened. Because the traditional landlording, even though I was doing the work myself, I was doing the maintenance myself, Graham, I still wasn't able to have the lifestyle that I wanted. I wasn't able to get that cash flow. It's like, I'm going to have to wait 30 years to pay off this mortgage before I make any money, you know? So because I started exploring around and I started collecting ideas on how you can make other ways to make money with your rental property. And that led to my second book called 40 Ways to Increase the Net Income of Your Rental Property. And that's going to be one of the giveaways I'm going to give whoever's listening. I'm going to give them a copy of that book. And one of those 40 ways was to do Airbnb. And so I started testing that out in 2015 when they came up with this business travel ready specialty where it went from bed and breakfast feel to, hey, rent the place without you living there. So that's when I really got in. That's what caused it. It was a role of a trial and error, trying to fix this landlording thing because traditional landlording needs some innovations. That's what I found. So that's how I got into it, all backwards. It wasn't a straight path.
Did you look at the vacation stuff first, or did you look at that first and then go into this model? You know,
yeah.
Can you explain the differences between the two models and why you actually went into this model as opposed to the traditional holiday Airbnb type scenario?
So I was a bridge engineer. That means I'd have to stay on site for 4 to 6 months. So I was an extended stay traveler, and I would stay at these Airbnbs sometimes, and the hosts were so nice to me. It was great. So that was a lot of work. That was on their part. And so I didn't want anything to do with that in my rentals. I was like, I like being a guest. I don't like being a host. So when Business Travel Ready came out, I said, I'm going to set aside one of my units. And I had an 8-unit apartment building. I was like, let me take the 2-bed, 1-bath and dedicate it and experiment. Okay. So I did like 3 bookings the first month, and I was just blown away. I was making a lot of money. This is great. But I was kind of living with this sense of panic. You know what that is, Graham? You like, do you think, and I was always, it's like I was getting ready to call to war or something. I was just on needles, and I didn't like that at all. That's back in 2015. And then I got a longer term stay just by accident. It was a month-long stay, and I was able to relax. And then I compared my numbers. This is what a lot of people don't do. I compared my net income, not the total revenue, but how much was left at the end of the month, and considering my time. Okay. And I looked at those and I said, they're about the same thing. The taking these 3 stays per month, the net income from that, not the total amount of revenue, and this 1 month stay was about the same. But the longer stays was less taxing on me, less taxing on my family, wasn't the friction of where are you going? I need help with my homework. Why are you leaving? I didn't have to, those are the things that was pulling me away from my family, and that's the wrong direction to go. So I started optimizing for longer stays. And then I found this world of 3 months, 4 months, 6 month stays, the finding people who were just like me, just traveling professionals on assignment. And they were just about business. They were less taxing. They had a big difference is where the money comes from. If you're on holiday, you're paying out of your own pocket because you're paying for your trip, and you might be paying for your convention or whatever you are for that 2-night, 3-night stay, weekend stay. If you're a longer stay, you typically have your employer pay for you, and because they're paying for you, and there might be your housing allowance might be larger than what you're actually paying me. You're actually able to pocket, the traveler is able to pocket some money. So they're more relaxed, and they're more focused, and they don't want to be they want their privacy, and they're just my type of folks. And it's actually more profitable because none of my time is involved. I don't have to do anything. I get them set up, go 3-6 months. So it's that Goldilocks, Graham. It's not too busy, not too slow. It's just right in between. And the profits are, to me, they exceed what those faster stays are.
So your stress levels went down straight away, did they? So that was the number one thing. Your stress levels went down. You found that. How about wear and tear? Do they spend less time in the property than, say, if you've got a holiday, a couple with some kids? Is there less wear and tear? Because someone with business obviously would go out and do stuff during the day. They wouldn't spend as much time there. Do you find a lot of those things are benefits as well?
Yeah, a lot of these travelers are on, if it's a health professional, they're gone 12 hours. And then they come back, they sleep, they get in a shower, and they're gone again. That's what they do. If it's like a lineman taking care of a power line, they come in, they're exhausted, they have a beer, they go to sleep, they get a cup of coffee, and they're out again.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really it. That's really it. They're hitting the sack and using the shower and out. So they're not playing basketball against the wall. They're not playing any music. It's great.
Yeah, that's another thing is there's not like the partying going on. There's not the screaming and the noise. Yeah, so
another big difference here. I didn't mean to cut you off, but another big difference that I want to show you the differences is traditional Airbnb and these vacation rentals. The host, the people who are, the business owner, will charge by person. They'll say, oh, okay, 4 people are good, and I'm going to charge you $10 per person after that. And then they set up all these pull-out sofas and extra sleeping spots because they want a lot of people, because that means a lot of money to them. So there's a lot of wear and tear with that situation.
Yeah.
On extended stays, since you set your price for a month, you want fewer people. If you set your price, okay, this is what I want for a month, and I'm assuming 2 people are going to be living there. Well, if one person shows up, you're even better. So I set things up for low density, low occupancy, no pull-out sofas, reclining chairs, because people want their own space. Sometimes we do love seats, 2 people chairs, but we go after, one category of folks I go after are business travelers like you and me. If we were going somewhere, I want my own room, you want your own room. There's no snuggling going on. There's no need for a love studio. No need for that. We want our own spaces, but we'll share a bathroom, and we like the savings. That's the whole thing. So going after those people is a really profitable niche to go after.
Yeah. And how do you locate, like when it comes to location, what have you got, like a laser focus? You know, obviously it has to have amendments. It has to be close. If it's business, it has to be close to business hubs and stuff like that. What's your
Right.
criteria when you look for the right property?
So for these extended stays, let's take, are you familiar with digital nomads by chance?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope digital men. Okay, so you could think if that's the big category, well, let's look at it from that lens, because there's lots of different lenses. What we look at, if we don't know anything about the area, we look at where the coffee shops are, because that's where people want to gather, right?
yeah,
So that's an indication where people want to gather. So we try to set up around coffee shops, and that's something that these big um, hotels can't do. They can't. They got to set up on the freeway by those national brand um, hotels. They can't get into the part of the city where people want to be, where all the attractions are. And when you're on an extended assignment, then loneliness for the traveler is the issue. That's their internal problem. Yeah, they're working, and when they have time off, they want to go and connect with the community. They want to discover something. They don't want to be way on the outskirts by the freeway. They're trying to see what the locals are doing and what the locals enjoy, and that's the advantage that we have, and that's what we're looking for, is give people an experience. Because you've traveled, I'm sure, Graham. You see the same thing over and over again. Everything looks the same no matter where you are. You're going to see the Starbucks. You're going to see the same old thing, and you want an experience. You want the richness of life. You want to feel like you are um, have a new story to share. You know, some adventure, not the same thing over and over again.
yeah.
So
That's correct.
that's a category.
I know when I've stayed in other cities, and we've had places, and you just go down like if it's an apartment, you go down the elevator, and you're right in the heart of things. So you walk out the door, and everything's there, all the restaurants, all the cafes, and you explore the city, even if you've been, like for instance, if you go to a seminar and you've been locked in a room for 10 hours, you still go out and you still might spend a couple of hours of that night going and having a look around. So I guess it's the same when you're working in a place for a long time. You'll actually go out with a bit of an itinerary and look for activities, to smell the roses while you're in that city, to actually get to know that city a little bit. So that's a really good point. Rather than being, like you said, right out in the suburbs on the side of a freeway, that would be very lonely. And that's a really good point. And when you maintenance, is there a lot of maintenance? Because like you said, there's not a lot of wear and tear. What do you do when you say, for instance, if you've got a new property, do you go in there and give it a makeover? Do you design it? Do you sort of do all that stuff?
Yeah, for any new property. So there's two things here. There's one, it's the standard way of taking care of your asset as an owner for building. You're talking to an engineer now. I can go on and on about this, because there's first thing, either way, whatever you want to exercise a preventative maintenance program. That means you treat all your drain lines, because there's always a clog, and that's so you're trying to eliminate the need for a plumber. You make sure your electrical outlets are good and all those types of things. Safety for sure. So during turnovers, for us on these extended stays, we're always doing these preventive maintenance activities. We treat our whether our sinks have a clog in it or not. We add a natural drain cleaner. All those things, because you don't want hair buildup and all that stuff that's going to cause a clog and a bad experience.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. If you get in every 3 months, you can maintain your property better. You can check for things, take care of normal wear and tear. So that's really cool. I like that part, and that's a big benefit to this, because you prevent a disaster, and that's what's really cool. There's always, even for long-term tenants, there's always something wearing out. So to get in and prolong it, it actually lowers your maintenance costs, and the maintenance is the biggest issue with holding a rental.
So now that you're fairly experienced, do you do, like when you go into a new property, and it's all ready to go. You do a maintenance schedule. You say, right, this has to happen at this point, this has to happen, and you have a pretty strict maintenance schedule to start with.
No, I wish I was like that. I'm not that organized. There's just things that we do automatically. Like you can always throw in a drain opener. You can always check under the sink as you're cleaning, make sure there's no leaks, wear and tear. For a furnished rental, like sheets and towels and all those types of amenities is really, really important. So you want to make sure those are in good shape. But otherwise, that you're just, if your rugs are good and your TVs don't wear out, you flip the bed, flip your mattress, and you're good to go.
I was going to say, a comfortable bed is a must, isn't it? That would be the first. Yeah, that'd be the first thing someone would complain about is they don't have a good night's sleep. You're in trouble. So that's probably number one on the shopping item when you start off.
Yeah.
And if someone was watching this and thought, I'm brand new, I want to get into this. Firstly, research. How would they research? How would they market? How would they, like you mentioned, digital nomads and that? What sites would they go on? How would they get started? Because it's pretty daunting for someone that's never done it before. What would your advice be to those people?
Wow. So, for most people, this is the way I go at it. I look and have them check to see if there's one of these national extended stay hotels in their area. Okay. Because if there's like a Residence Inn, Extended Stay America, Wyndham, one of those that has a kitchenette in it already, then all the research has been done. That means that area can support, there are people who want longer term stays coming to that area. Okay. So from there, you just take a look at their prices, and then you can work your numbers from there so that you can make a profit. But I always recommend that they make sure that activity, the demand for extended stays are there, because those hotels that go in there, that's $12 to $22 million they've done their research before they spent the money. And then you can just drive their parking lot to see how popular they are. And if there's any cars there, then you know that you can take the next step. So that's how you know that your area can do it. But then inside of your area, the different places that you can market is pretty vast, because you got military. Those guys are traveling professionals, oftentimes on 3 to 10-month assignments, TDYs and longer. So they're traveling, they need temporary housing. And then you have corporate housing, of course, people like me who are traveling, have their employers pay for it. I call that corporate. Anytime your employer is paying for you to go, let's put that in the ball of corporate. And then you got students, of course, they need furnished rentals. That's a whole different category of it. And then the digital nomads, they're self-employed. So you got the regular 30-somethings traveling. You got people, families with their kids, and they want to study abroad. That's a whole different category. And then you got seniors who always wanted to travel, and this is their time they're traveling for 6 months at a time. Okay. And then you got insurance people. If say your house got, you had a leak in your house and you had an insurance claim, your insurance company puts you up in a place. Okay. So you got those. Or if there's like a hurricane comes through, those people who work for the insurance company, those adjusters, they need the place to stay for a long period of time as they're doing their case studies. Okay. And then you got medical. So you open a can of worms. You got medical students, you got medical nurses and doctors, and then you got families who come to support their loved ones on a long-term recovery, right? Then you got international, and then you got temp housing, people in between waiting for the new homes to be built. So there's a lot, Graham. Each one of them has their own way of marketing to get your message out. And then, so I tell people, you got to get your message out online, offline, and with social media. So you see all those categories I gave you?
Yeah,
and then times three different ways of getting your message out. So I don't know how many times, I don't know. That's a lot I can't cover all those today, but
I was going to
you
say,
can. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, is there one particular net? Is there something that you really like? Maybe hospitals or a district? Is there, that may be able to encompass three different types that really works well? Have you got like a model
Right.
that
No,
you
you pick from. So if one particular group is popular, then they slow down. You got to know how to pivot if you
okay.
want to keep your place filled. You gotta um, if you're going to be a professional into this, and if you're going to grow a portfolio, and if you want to get to the place where you have economic freedom, which means you don't have to go to work, you just make a couple of decisions a week. If you want to get to that place, you can go and be like a busy CEO type and all that. But if you want to get past that, then you need to learn how to market into different categories, because things are always changing, right? The what's popular now, what's booming now, is going to slow down. After the construction project is over, things change. So you got to keep your eye out. You got to keep pivoting, and you got to learn how to um, make a lot of relationships. You got to actually pick up the phone sometimes and talk to people before you need them if you're going to be in this business. If you're not, if you just want to be an Airbnb host, and people make a lot of money just with that category, that's great. That is great. You're no competition to us. You can leave in all the profits to us. And if you want that easy and be solely reliant on Airbnb to give you something to eat every day, and be at the mercy of them cutting you off if something, if and also their policies about refunding the guests, which hurts a lot of people. Um, I think that's great for people. Some people who want it that easy. But if you want to have a full, your own freedom, your own economic freedom, where you're responsible, you take responsibility for marketing and everything like that, then you gotta learn how to market into many different categories.
So there's a couple of levels there. Like you said, you can actually do it for time freedom, or if you want to scale, if you're the type of person who wants to really scale this up and run it as an aggressive, like you said, sort of corporate thing, you can do both. So there's scope for both. Like you said, for you, it was more about time freedom and working out how you can increase the income of your rentals and
Right,
to make a higher income so that you weren't a slave to the system, to
right.
the rental system. But people who also are, sort of want to really build a bit of an empire, they can do that through this as well, can they?
They can. Here's the thing: if you say you own a rental and you're able to triple the net income, you don't need so many rentals. That's why people are like amazed that I can take 8 rentals and replace my income with it, and stay home and enjoy my family. I don't need 100 empire, because what you're doing is profitable. You know how they're thinking. That's interesting amongst real estate people. We want to know how many rentals you have, whether they're profitable or not, because you could have 100 rentals and still not be profitable, right?
Yeah,
At
and
the end of the
also be running around flat out, no
right.
time for the family. So yeah, that's
So let's flip that to say, how do you make what you have profitable, so you don't have to pay extra taxes and there's less moving parts, and you can enjoy the lifestyle that you're trying to enjoy? Well, what I found, what works for me, is the Goldilocks, the longer term stays, um, with people who have their employer paying for them so that they're relaxed and they don't wear out your property, and so you can relax. So that's it. And then you're actually profitable, and you can live the lifestyle you want to live.
yeah, and I guess like you said, with less outlaid for properties, your costs aren't as high. If you've got 100 properties, you've got a lot of money out there. Where if you've got 8 that are doing the same thing for you, it's less outlay in the end. So it's less of a risk, I guess. So
Right. And
Yeah.
people get eight within a couple of years. I mean, that's not unreasonable, right? They can get eight within 3 years and retire or replace their income. So that's what's amazing. Instead of 30 years of working for someone else, you can take a different path if you want to, or you can do both at the same time. And there's a way out now. There's a absolutely, well, that's what engineers do. We optimize and we're fine tuning. So I've been playing with it for a while. So that's why I help people guide them through that so that they can get to that that spot.
And also, this is something that could work for someone that's already got existing rentals and says, I'm done with this. This is something that they could look at if they're thinking about exiting, getting out. They could look at this model and see where their properties are at and whether they could work for this type of thing. So it's actually might be a bit of an exit out of being a traditional landlord for a lot of people that might be watching this that have got rentals. They could look into this type of thing and say, well, these couple of properties fit into this. So, it's also a different strategy. Now, what I also wanted to ask, this is just a question that I thought of, was if, with the properties that you've got, are they in a city or can they be in the suburbs, or you think in a city is probably the right model?
Yeah, so they can be anywhere. Let me just tell you what I do, because I don't like taking a lot of risks. I like to see if if there's an existing national brand hotel that's done the research, that's proven. So it's not going to be there. If they deem the country or the suburbs to be profitable, and they've done that research, $100,000 worth of research and all their models and everything, then I still would locate. If it was there, then I go to the next step and find out where do people want to gather, and I would set up there. So when I say set up, so if your existing rental is on the outskirts of town, you can choose as a landlord, you can choose to own rentals and rent other people's rentals to rent. You can rent to rent. Okay. A lot of these hotels, like the Marriott, they simply rent other people's hotels and put their name on it and keep going. Okay. So even as a landlord, as a real estate investor, you can own your properties and rent someone else's properties and reposition them and make the difference between the rental market and the hospitality market. Okay. So you can locate in the most desirable spots of town without buying that property. So if you're interested in cash flow, if you like money, you don't say my rental is in the wrong part of town, I can't do anything at all. You say, well, let me just keep renting mine and go rent someone else's and make money.
Yeah, that's sort of known as is it the arbitrage? Is that called the arbitrage yeah. And
now let me stop you just there for a second, because this is a big topic, and what you're saying is correct, but it doesn't give people the full breadth of what is going on. So if you're renting something from a landlord and then you furnish it and then you turn around and rent it back out, that's a rental arbitrage. If you are doing a joint venture with a landlord, okay, you make a partnership agreement type of thing, then it's not an arbitrage, right? If you get an option on someone's property so that you can purchase it at a later time, lease option and rent it, then it's not an arbitrage. But all these ways of controlling the property, you control it in the rental market so that you can reposition. That's why I call it the rent to rent. Rental arbitrage is one category of that, but it's absolutely the most, it gets a lot of attention. But yeah, because performance lease is where you share your revenue with the owner of the property. That's a great category. That's a super win-win category. That's another lever that people can use. So anyway, let's go back to rental arbitrage, which is one category in this full category of scopes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really interesting you've said that, because there is a couple of different ways. So if someone was starting off, they could look at the arbitrage without having to outlay any large sums of money. They could look at a lease option. They could look at a lot of different ways and that's a really great idea with, say, a lease option. You could do like a profit share with the owner to entice them a little bit.
Right, right. So it's unlimited what you can do. All you have to do is just have a little bit of courage. That's really all you need is with this idea, because as long as the potential energy there, I'm saying there's got to be a big enough difference between the hospitality industry and the rental market. Like, for example, in Silicon Valley, in San Jose, California, they're about the same. The rental market and the cost to go to an extended stay hotel are about the same. So it doesn't work there. But on the outskirts of most places, let's say Nashville, Tennessee, there's a huge difference. And that's the spot to do it. Mm-hmm. So, but you're always comparing, in my world, because I don't like taking risks. You're always comparing against the extended stay hotels, because from a traveler looking at it, they're saying, where do I want to stay? Well, I'm going to do some research here, and I'm going to do some research there. I'm going to look at the hotel. I'm going to look at other options too. And then they're going to compare the two. Okay. And then they're going to pick whichever one suits them best. If this one is cheaper and allows them to bring their dog, and it's close to where the coffee shops are, and it gives them an adventure too, then it's like and it has a washer and dryer in its own unit. It's no brainer then.
Yeah, and the other question that I wanted to ask you, like we said about the city or suburbs or whatever, what about apartments, homes, townhouses? Is there any particular criteria with that? Is there a yes or a no type of property?
You can take whatever property and it has its highest best use. So you can take any one of those and go and look at those categories I recommended, laid out, and say, okay, this one's best for that. If you have a house with a fenced-in yard, if that's what you're working with, then you're like, well, someone who's relocating that has a dog would love this place. Okay, you don't say it doesn't work. You say, which category do I want to market to? And I got to learn how to market there. So I help people with that piece of it.
Yeah.
So every property, whether it's a townhouse, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a mobile home, whether it's a yurt or a tent, everything has its highest best use. But here it is. People buy the marketing. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, people put a lot of effort in a whole bunch of things, but it's the marketing that people actually click on and buy. So that has to be right. They got to hear your message, and then they got to trust you. And so those are the things that you got to work on if you're going to get into this and you want to stay into it. Otherwise, you're just simply if you want to be Airbnb's asset and let them do everything for you, then you get what you get, right? So anyway, both of them work. There's a lot of things out there. That's what I didn't mean to correct you. I just want to say everything has its highest and best use. You can make anything work. You can make tree houses work, or even a hammock.
No, well, I'm glad you did, because that's sort of what myself and the listeners want to hear is, you sort of get pigeonholed into a certain thinking, and you've been in it and you've seen it from all different angles. First as the traveler and the business person, and secondly now from the other side. So that's fantastic to hear that. So, like you said, you've got to pivot. You've got to be able to, if something goes a bit quiet in that market, to go into another market and then market to it. So that's fantastic, and that's the sort of stuff that we, obviously the listeners want to hear. Is they want to hear, like, what would happen if this happened, right? And you say, well, go across into here and then market to this specific person. Don't get pigeonholed into just one way of thinking. So right. No, that's awesome. And so like you said, you could probably make, there'd be a certain type of property that you like, but you could still make something else work with your experience, couldn't you? Because you understand the marketing now. So,
Right.
and it's funny you said that you don't like risk. Well, I think a lot of the people that would be starting to get into it would like to get into it with that attitude. I don't like risk, and then as they get more experience, they'd like to maybe add a little bit of risk if they get,
Right.
But no, that's awesome. And is it so? Is it you'd have a criteria of certain states that are like you said, Nashville would be a great area, California in that particular areas, or Silicon Valley. So you've got certain little places that you'd probably go after when you want to add a property. So you get to know that when you're in the industry a little bit more, do you?
For me, this is just my preference. I like it all right here where I am. Wherever I am, I can make it work, because you're looking what you're. I don't want to. Let's take it from the top. The cash flow you want is the difference between your income and expenses, not the location, not the rental, it's just income and expenses, right? You can make that work anywhere. There's no reason to go all over the world to pull off your portfolio, have all these moving parts, and work on different time zones, and there's there's glamour to that if that's what you want. There's significance to that if that's what you're doing it for. I'm simply doing this to cash flow my life, and so I can have time with my kids, so I don't have the regrets that I had as a working engineer, not being able to raise my family and on the go all the time and overweight and everything. I want it right here, because no matter where you are, this can work. It can work because income and expenses, right? And with that said, that's the way I coach people. That's my particular style. Not that having an international portfolio is bad. I don't want to say that at all. I'm saying you're talking to someone who feels really passionate about getting to economic freedom, so that you don't have to go to work. So that's my true passion, and I think, and I strongly believe, and I've demonstrated with numerous people that this particular path is optimal for getting it done in a few years.
Yeah, well, that's another good point. I mean, like I said, the way you've explained that is the way I'm hearing it is it's glamour. People get caught up in the glamour and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes down to the crunch, if you can just look at the figures are what's glamorous. It's not, I've got a property here, and it's good dinner party conversation, but you might not make any money. So, at the end of the day, do you want to be talking big at the dinner party, or do you want to be actually financially free? And that's a great point, that if people are listening and they're in a certain market, they could stay just in that market. There might be, in a certain city, there might be enough demand to have all their properties that would be a lot easier to manage too.
That's a lot easier, man. They may need a little help analyzing it, and that's kind of that's my specialty of doing that. But yeah, you can make it work. That's the great thing about real estate. There's opportunities, but it all boils down, when it comes to cash flow. It's different for equity and wealth building, but when it comes down to cash flow, it's income and expenses. That's all that matters.
So that's what you'd start with if you're new, wouldn't you? You'd be just looking at pure cash flow, and down the track you could add a property when everything sort of, the checks and balances are in place. You could add a property that's going to appreciate in value for a bit of but these ones over here will be cash flowing everything, and this one will be growing in value. So, and then I guess the one is, where do I want to have a holiday once a year? You could probably then whack one in to your portfolio in your favorite holiday place.
Or you can use the cash flow, all the cash that you made, to go rent whatever you want.
Go rent one, yeah. So there you go. There's another thought.
Let me take you in a little different direction, okay? Just for the heck of it. So if you are running have a real marketing strategy that includes Airbnb, but it's not dependent on Airbnb. Okay, you can live without. So you have your social media, you have your website, you got reviews on many different places, independent, okay? And then you're say you're renting someone else's place. You have maybe a few places where you're doing rental arbitrage, okay? Then that's a standalone business. Okay, it's a standalone business that you can sell for multiples of, 2, 3 times, 3 to 5 times the annual gross, right? It is an asset that way. If you just rely on Airbnb, where you can't transfer your reviews from one person, you can only sell your furniture. So it's $100,000 of difference going at it this way, learning how to market and really becoming something for the same amount of output of how much it costs. It's just coming in it to as a business owner instead of just an Airbnb superhost, which you can make money as an Airbnb superhost. I don't have anything of that. If that's all you want and you don't want a sellable asset, and if you're doing it out of your own property, you get both. You get the appreciation and you get the value of your business on top of that. So who wouldn't want to do that? I can't believe that landlords who put all that effort in to saving all that money for a down payment will simply let their rentals go at the lowest possible rents. It's just I just can't understand that. Why would anyone work that hard to get paid so little to barely break even? I don't know. I don't understand that.
It probably goes down to a bit of mindset, doesn't it? That's the traditional way it's always been done. And now it's probably education as well. Once you actually understand all this stuff, if people got to sit down and speak to you for half an hour or an hour, their mind would open up. I mean, just even what you've just told us today, it's triggered a few things with me. I thought, I never thought of that. Yeah, that's a great idea. And so it's probably the way forward, isn't it, for people? It's another option now that people will, who, if someone watches this, they'll go, wow, I'm going to look into that now. And I've actually, I've just popped up your website up on the screen, so that, if people want to go and check out your stuff on the website. You mentioned before about the giveaway too. Is that on the site?
That's that link that you have there, landlordscientist.com.
Yep.
That will get you a copy of my book, a PDF of my book, and an audio. So the book is about all these ways you can increase the net income of your rental property, because net income is all that matters. When it's all in the day, net income. And then the audio series I'm giving is the top 10 ways to reduce rental expenses, because you want to increase your income, reduce your expenses, and that increases your net. And that allows you to do a lot more than with what you have or what someone else's has too. So there's a lot of wasted potential on the left in the rentals. There's a lot of meat on the bones, and people, I feel people aren't going after it, and they should. It make their lives a lot better, a lot easier, a lot more ease if they had these tools, so that they could squeeze more out of what they already have.
Yeah, and I think people need to do themselves a favor. You've been through the heartbreak of having your properties trashed with traditional rentals. I mean, this is something you can look at. And like you said, if someone had half a dozen rentals, they could just start with one, couldn't they? And just dip their toe in the water, go through, check it out. Oh, that works well. Oh, look at the figures. That works well. And then go to a second one. And like I said, if not all the properties fit that criteria, then they can actually go out and do a rent to rent type scenario and go from there. So everyone do yourself a favor. Go to it's http://landlordscientist.com. Go there, get the PDF, get the booklet, and check it out. And especially if you're frustrated, you've had properties that have been trashed, so you're looking for something that might be a better option moving forward. So no, that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on, Al, because this is something, like I said, that people probably need to educate themselves on, and it's not in their general awareness when it comes to real estate investing. They just overlook it. And I mean, I think we've all heard of the holiday Airbnb, but like you said, this is a model that is less hands-on and allows you to have a bit more time freedom. So that's something I'm sure all investors are looking for moving forward.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
No,
I love
appreciate
getting the message out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. I mean, that stuff's gold. I hope anyone that has watched this, they go back and watch the video and just go through what Al said and then check out his stuff. And do you do sort of coaching or any stuff like that? So if someone really wanted to get into this, they can reach out via the website to get a one-on-one type, booking with you to look into it further, because I think there's a lot of people out there that would like to go this route with their properties, and people that would like to get into it. I think it's a growing business. And look, the last question I just want to hit you with before we go is, how did COVID sort of affect all this? How did COVID affect the side that you do?
The side that I do. So COVID was like, you put lighter fluid on to coals.
Yeah.
And that's what COVID did to our industry. It just put us like 5 years ahead of a already growing. It was the only thing that survived. It was profitable during COVID because people wanted to not be in crowds. They wanted to have their own space. They didn't want cleaners coming in. Essential workers needed their space. Essential workers kept going. In fact, the demand for essential workers on the medical side, one category, just doubled. Okay, it was like we stayed fully booked all the way through 2020. And if there's any other type of a variant of COVID comes out, we'll be just fine as well. If nothing happens, we're just fully booked, because essential workers prefer us over these hotels, and essential workers aren't affected by national disasters. In fact, that's who they come out. They're needed anymore, or recessions, or droughts, or any of that. So it's a great spot to be. I figure it's the safest spot to be in.
It's a great model, isn't it, for stuff that traditionally affects, like I said, hotels and holiday Airbnbs. This one's probably a bit more insulated. So I just had to ask that question. That was I just thought, people would want to know that, and that's it's almost bulletproof, isn't it? Like you said, it ticks a lot of boxes. So, all right, Al, really great that you could come on and share all that stuff with us. Like I said, there's going to be a few people with a few pennies dropping. They've got that information, so they can reach out. They can check your website, and then from there on, they can reach out to you further if they want to, get into it and get you to, coach them. And I guess, they could get into your knowledge, and you've been there in the trenches and you've done it. So that's amazing. So appreciate it once again. And we'll sign out now, guys. If you're on Facebook, hit the like button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe. And on the Thunder from Down Under, it's Graham Solomon Thunder from Down Under Facebook page. Smash the like button. I'm sure you got really good information from Al, and it's something that you can, if you're not already doing it, you can really start looking at to improve your lifestyle and your cash flow from longer term rentals from the Airbnb traditional holiday model. So awesome. Really appreciate it, Al. And I'm sure that I'll get a few phone calls from this and people want to know more. So I'll pass them through to your website. So thank you very much for your time. And I wish you the best moving forward. Hopefully you can, increase those profits.
That's right. Hey, thank you for having me.
No worries. All right, we'll check out now. Okay, guys, signing off. We'll see you next week.